This is WPSL Port St. Lucie.
The views expressed in the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we encourage you to like and share them on Facebook and other social networks because right now, we welcome back to our studios from Nutrition World in downtown Fort Pierce across from City Hall. We welcome back Joanne Augusto.
Good morning. Thank you for that lovely intro. I feel like it was just yesterday that I left, though. Honestly, this feels so like back to being home.
This is what we've always called deja vu.
Yes, right?
It seems like we've done this before.
Yes, and I have really missed being here. I've missed you.
Oh, well,
how have you been?
I've been doing much better. I mean, shortly after you...
we'll call it a long vacation.
Yeah, before you took that long vacation, just shortly after you went on that vacation, I was actually diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. I went into the ER with a very bad flesh-eating virus in my back. And they discovered that I was type 2 diabetic at the time. And, you know, they hook you up at the hospital with all these nutrition specialists. They told me, your life changes today. You can't eat anything with sugar in it. And wait a minute. Everything that they told me, I heard it before. Guess where?
I can't imagine, but maybe you needed to hear one more place to listen.
Well, you know what, though? I treated it seriously. I would make a comment, yeah, it's easy. And then say, oh, you've lost weight wonderfully. And I'd say, well, it's easy when you got a gun to your head.
Exactly.
Like
Isn't it true? Unfortunately, with most conditions, as we always say, it usually is last resort when people wake up. Sometimes not even then, but usually it's like do or die.
Infections and cancers love sugar more than you do.
I know.
And they prosper on it very well. And you know, I heard that diabetes is reversible. You know, I heard it on your show. And yet I never heard of anybody actually having the diagnosis removed.
Well, I don't think they had your determination maybe and your willpower.
Well, just before I had my diagnosis removed, Karen's aunt up in the Ocala National Forest, her doctor told her she wasn't diabetic anymore, and she'd been so for years and years.
That is so
awesome. So she was the
awesome.
first person I actually heard of. And I was telling my doctor that, and the doctor says, well, you're the second person then. I thought, you're right.
Yeah. Well, many of my customers have done it, but unfortunately, sometimes their doctors say, well, we must have misdiagnosed you.
Well,
and I think that's so puzzling why they would say that.
That's what I was wondering, because if my blood sugar levels was way over 400, approaching 500, and they're supposed to be between, say, like 80
wait,
and
your
120.
blood sugars were posting 500?
Well, when they did the test when I first went in, it was like close to 500. It was in the 400 area.
Wow, I never remember you mentioning it was that high.
No.
Okay.
But don't forget, I also had this living virus eating me in my back.
Yes.
At the time too, and that.
It was probably loving all that sugar.
Well, yeah.
It's like, oh, yummy,
Oh,
yummy.
yeah.
Let's take over.
My granddaughter's birthday, I had 2 big pieces of cake the day before I went to the ER.
Oh, and those cakes, forget it. Every bite is like 10 grams of sugar.
I know, and oh my.
Well, I am so glad you reversed that diagnosis, and I'm so glad to be back. I thought, since it has been over a year since I took a very long vacation, that maybe I should tell the listeners all about me in case I have some newbies listening, which I hope for.
I see your store a lot because I know right where you are.
Right, you can't miss it on US 1, right?
Building. Wow. and
yeah, I love being there, and yes, I am now. It's about, I think I'm going on 3 years there already. On US 1, inside the historic arcade building in Fort Pierce.
Right across from City Hall.
Right next to the new federal court building. I usually use that as a landmark now because that thing is such a monster, this big white,
Can't miss
huge.
That.
Yeah, I'm like, here's pretty little historic downtown, and there's this big, huge white federal building with an armed guard, you know? You can't miss it. But yeah, I thought, Cliff, I don't even know if you remember my story because it was years at the beginning of the show I mentioned it, and I don't know if I ever repeated it, but I was telling a few people what brought me into this industry. So I think I got to let the listeners know why I might be a little radical and passionate and just really believe in all this holistic nutrition
Well,
stuff,
you
mind,
have
body, and soul.
good reason, because it works.
Right?
If it works for you, yes.
Yes, and that's I'm going to lead to that, because now that I am older, and because I had people 30 years ago saying to me, Joanne, why are you doing all this stuff? Just live life, enjoy. And I said, because I always want to feel this good and this wonderful and healthy and happy. And I knew just every bit of my body, mind, soul, spirit told me that this was the path for me to take to live the best life I could. And so it started when I was in high school. I believe I had just started high school, and I am the youngest of 8 kids, 4 brothers and 3 sisters, and we had, unfortunately she passed, but we have had an amazing mother who was German, and she would cook homemade meals every night as I was growing up. Very healthy food. So I had 7 extremely healthy brothers and sisters. And she decided when I entered high school that she was going to take the night shift at the hospital. She was one of those switchboard operators.
Okay.
Yeah, super cool. Well, then it led to mac and cheese, hot dogs, pizza, and one of my very close friends, who later became my boyfriend, he worked at a pizza parlor.
Uh-oh.
So each evening, my dad pretty much bribed us and said, well, if you want to spend time with him here at the house, he has to bring pizza.
Oh.
You know, it was one of those, you're too young to have a boyfriend, but if he comes over with pizza, he can hang out and watch TV with us.
Yeah.
So each evening was that type of shift from my mother's homemade German cooking to pizzas and convenient foods.
Suddenly from German cooking to
This is a
Italian.
hint where I'm going with this story.
Okay.
So shortly after, all of a sudden, I was waking up with extreme stomach aches and bloating. I started getting welts, and I'm not talking little pimples, welts on my jawline that looked like cysts and rashes. I couldn't even button up my pants because my belly would be so distended and painful. Then I started vomiting, and my mother, working at a hospital, brought me to a bunch of doctors. I don't even remember how many, but there was enough where they were doing, it was back, 33 years ago, but they were prodding and prodding as many areas they could to figure it out, and no one solved it. So months went by. I was missing so much school. I just could never keep anything down. I was just really, and I was really slim back then, and all you could see is my bloated belly. Honestly, it looked like some of those things you see in third world countries. It was a little scary.
Guess. Was this a food allergy?
Hey, don't be trying to jump to the end of the story here, okay? I'm leading up. It's being suspenseful.
Well,
Isn't that what radio's
I
all
am
about? I'm being
totally in suspense.
suspenseful. Okay. So one of my beautiful older sisters was, we were on Long Island, New York, and she was in the city doing a job. And she came home and said, hey, I met this really cool nutritionist guy. And he said, what's wrong with, they call me Joanne, my sisters. What's wrong with Joanne?
Oh, you shouldn't have told us that.
I know, right? Here we go.
Okay.
Well, my redhead sister calls me JoJo, and this one I'm speaking of calls me Joanne. So, Mom, I know what's wrong with Joanne. And so she said, this nutritionist guy, and I think he's kind of popular, he says she should give up dairy and flour. Okay, so my mother, as amazing as she was, had no idea really. She knew milk was a dairy food, but she didn't really grasp the concept of dairy being in so many different foods, or flour. This was a woman that made homemade bread every night. So, so my other sister, the one that calls me JoJo, now she had a hippie boyfriend at the time who right away chimed in and said, oh, Mom, everyone called my mother Mom, everyone, and said, Mom, I know what he's talking about. I can fix Joanne. I got it. I can take over for you. So he did. He took me under his wing, and he got me into this whole nutrition life that I had never experienced, juicing and vegetables. My mother, we really didn't have much money, so we were limited. We would have maybe, a little salad or a little broccoli, but not really a whole array of vegetables in our world. All of a sudden, the whole vegetable kingdom was introduced to my life. He was a vegan, so I stopped eating meat. I stopped the dairy foods. I stopped the flour. It was a lot of like soups and veggie broths, and I am telling you, this is the truth. I remember this number. It was less than 3 weeks. All my symptoms went away. Wow. Everything. The welts on my face, the rashes on my arms, the distension, the nausea, the cramping, the throwing up. And I ended up so excited that not only was food killing me, but I couldn't believe that this other food healed me without one pill. Like, not one pill did I take. And I went from there to graduating high school a year early, going to school for nutrition in Boston, and becoming obsessed. And this is the coolest part, because I believe that, this was my destiny. That's why I'm so passionate, because I can look anyone square in the face, and when they say to me, "Oh, no, it's not the diet," I can look at them and know 110% it is I believe what you're consuming, and what you're consuming in your brain too. Your thoughts and your diet is completely controlling what's happening in your body.
Sometimes when you have like we kid around, we say, well, I just had a senior moment. But let's just say that you have a puzzling thing happen to you suddenly, and you start wondering what's wrong. It might have been something you ate.
Yes. Well, that's the whole thing, is that there is a more of awareness now that you are what you eat, but people don't realize that all these expressions that go back thousands of years ago, like food can be used to poison people. Yep. Food can be intentionally used to kill people or to heal them, and it's our choice which way we're going to go with it. It's completely our choice. But I know when I went to Boston, again, on a very, very strict budget, I couldn't afford the student rent to live in this super cool house. It was right next to the people that own Hunt's Ketchup. Oh, so it's this huge mansion in Boston in front of this lake, and it was a student, kind of like a student housing project. So it had all those really cool, because it was like a really amazing house, like a historic home with all these tiny little rooms. So I took the deal that if I cook for the students breakfast and dinner, I don't have to pay rent. And it would also help go to my tuition. It was a great deal, I thought, because I was used to cooking and cleaning at my mom's house. She at that point of 8th child, it was like the whole maternal thing was kind of shut down at that point. She's like, yeah. So I kind of took over that role. So I didn't mind cooking and cleaning, but my room was this little tiny room off the kitchen. And so it was so cool. We had an organic garden outside the house. We would go into the woods and dig up burdock root, which if anyone hasn't heard of burdock, it's great for soups and broths and sautéing and for the blood and the kidneys. But we would dig up burdock root. We'd bring it home. I'd be making miso soups for breakfast. The people that owned the home were from Japan. So it was an extremely big influence with Japanese culture. We sat on the floor. We had soup for breakfast. Most of their traditional Japanese vegetables. And we did salads too, which was rare though. They didn't do much of the raw foods. It was mainly cooked foods. But what an amazing experience I had. I wish I kind of was older when I went through it, but it was just life-changing.
You mentioned burdock root. We used to pull something out of the ground that we thought was horseradish.
That's burdock root. It looks very similar, except for it's not spicy. It's kind of like bland, like a yucca.
But if you're a kid, it has kind of a bitter, dry taste, like
horseradish. I've been putting it in soups and stir fries for so long that I honestly haven't had a bite by itself for many years.
What's the white carrot they put in soups?
This daikon radish, which I eat every day. Now, daikon looks like a huge carrot, and you can get it anywhere, Publix. And that, in Japanese lifestyles, you have a tablespoon of shredded up daikon after every single meal, and they put in the soup. It's phenomenal. Anything like bitter or spicy is great for the liver and the gallbladder. And I think it tastes really yummy. It's not too strong in either direction, so to throw it in a salad, and it's really economical. But but I learned so much by cooking for all these students because I just learned how to be budget minded. Only use because the whole household was vegan, so there was no animal foods allowed inside the house. And well, I should say, I'm sorry. They did do wild fish. They did. It is Boston, so I mean they had amazing fish there. So they did do wild fish on occasion because it's a lot for all those students. But it was a really amazing experience, and it taught me the connection between family, community, cooking, freshness, gardening, that it all mattered. Like everything mattered. And honestly, it's kind of ironic that I own a big health food store that sells lots of supplements because what I learned was really basically about doing the food first. But I do believe that there is a place for supplementation now because of the quality of the food that's available to us. It's not like it was in Boston for me that many years ago. Most of us don't have our little garden going in our backyards, and we're not buying from farmers market, unfortunately. So
I'd have a problem up in the New England area because they'll have these fried clam shacks everywhere.
Well, do you know, like I said, I was, as you know me now, picture me being a million times stricter back then.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was so like life-changing, and honestly I felt so good, and I had recently known what feeling bad felt like, that I didn't want to cheat at all.
When you start feeling indestructible, that's when you know you're feeling right.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. When I put all this yummy healthy food into me, there was never an ill side effect. I mean, my eyes were bright and clear. My skin was so clear. And as a young girl, to have those welts and cysts on my face,
Well,
I mean, that was
cool.
Thank God I did have that same pizza boyfriend, let me tell you, because I don't know if I could have got another with all these rashes and welts happening, but it was really difficult as a young high school girl to have this stuff on her face. And when I cleared up and I would look in the mirror, how my hair would be shinier and thicker, and I would just, really be standing straight with no crossover pains in my lower abdomen, which seemed to be part of my everyday life. It was thrilling. So I didn't want to stray from that world whatsoever. I never these days, I'm not that same girl, but back then I did not want to stray whatsoever. I want to stay on course. I want to change the world and literally just shout to the masses like food can kill you.
Oh, yeah. Well, when I was first diagnosed with diabetes, I thought everybody should get tested. But what I didn't think of was if it's actually easy to reverse, but you have to strictly stick to it. You just can't.
And be patient too.
Yeah, patient.
Yes.
Patient. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I always mention that patience is a huge part of healing because it didn't take a day to get the condition. I don't know if you remember the expression I used to always say about the label that you have from your doctor, whether it be diabetic or a neuropathy or depression or any label. You earned that degree. You earned that label through sometimes years and years and years. But you have the power and the choice to strip that label away from you. You do not have to be sentenced with that. Right. It was your choice to get the label, and it's your choice to remove the label. And I definitely believe that as long as you have patience and you have the correct mindset, anything is possible.
The correct mindset.
Yes, the correct mindset. Don't worry about everything,
and don't react to every little piece of drama that falls
right.
before you.
You and I have always agreed on that keep the drama out of the brain and just stick to the basics. And
we all learned the hard way about that.
Yeah, and that's why I mentioned that. I'm definitely not that young girl that never was led astray. Now, if you see me out in the world, especially, I'm living now off of Becker. I can't remember. Yes, I was on Becker when we were still doing the show. So, I mean, there is definitely a time that you'll see me eating, some blue corn chips, which is a little bit non-GMO organic, of course, but that would be my flour in my life as far as, I call my, little treat here and there.
Have you seen these new little treats? they look like little French fries, processed French fries, but they're actually like peas.
Oh, yes. My daughter loves them. Elena loves them. And yes, I have two
It's good to see
children.
that
You'll
the
hear me
stores are
reference them a
reacting.
lot.
The
So
stores are now reacting because they know that there's a market for this.
But I'm really not crazy about anything in a bag. That's why I mentioned that the blue corn chips are my go-to cheat food. Once in a while, I try to really control it, but it's like I have all these yummy dips that sometimes the veggies will cut it for me. Sometimes I just need a little bit of that flour, starchy crunch.
Carb.
And yeah, that little carb, that little carb. But I definitely have found that anything coming from a bag, no matter what the label says and how many pretty colors of veggies they put on the outside of that bag, it's
Plastic
not
bag,
really healthy. It's not. Even in my store, it just doesn't matter where you're buying it and how healthy the bag looks.
Well,
it still sits in that bag way too long, and it's extremely processed.
You've probably got some very, very healthy, high-tech, healthy snacks.
I
that would
do.
overshadow, all these other
Well, I
grocery
just try to
stores.
do like back to nature things, like, pumpkin seeds that are absolutely delicious and roasted, or a spicy version, or wasabi spiced, and just things like nuts and seeds. And oh my gosh, just brought in these flaxseed crackers. They are flourless, but they literally are light and crispy, and you can use those. Like we ran out of them and they were out of stock, or else I would do those instead of my blue corn chips. They are so delicious.
Yeah, you used to bring in these drinks that had flaxseed in it. Was it
Oh,
flaxseed or
chia.
Oh, chia, yeah.
Yes.
Does that help hair grow?
Yes, I will have to give a shout out to my boyfriend, Matthew. I'm sure he's listening, but he said to me, he goes, yeah, I heard of people taking the chia, like putting just in drinks. And I started laughing. I'm like, yeah, I love that, because I call them my little amoebas. Once you put them in the liquid, they just swell up, but they
come back to life.
Oh my God, they have all the essential fatty acids and the fiber and a little bit of protein, and they just go in the belly and make the belly and the intestines so super happy. And
they can feed your brain with the fatty acids.
Exactly.
Too.
Wow, look at you remembering all that good stuff. You're so
Joanne
awesome.
ought to be a professor in nutrition, because you want to talk to somebody who knows what's going on. I can tell you she does, because, well, I admitted it a couple weeks ago when I mentioned that you were coming back, that I might be alive still because of what I learned from you.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Well, it's possible, because
Do you
I don't
know?
know.
Well, I
what's
just
gonna
celebrated my 50th birthday just a
Okay.
couple weeks ago, and I had a lot of customers that didn't know my age. When they found out my age, were like in complete shock. They were like,
Really?
no, you're not.
No
No,
way.
you're not. And I do believe it's years of following my own advice, and I definitely could have done better. Like I mentioned, I have strayed many times. I mean, I'm confessed chocoholic. I definitely have had my bouts with some red wine and Tito's to enjoy my weekends. So I am far from perfect, but I have learned the difference between balance and staying away always from the chemicals. Just definitely staying away from chemicals and knowing that
Processed foods.
Yep, staying away from processed foods. Like, I will never go through a drive-through. Like, I've never done a fast food drive-through. That's where I kind of put my major rule down. Like, okay, that's not happening, and I won't do an artificial sweetener. I won't do an artificial color. Well, with the exception of maybe a Twizzler here and there at a movie theater, but that's very rare. And I mentioned that because it occurred last night.
Oh, you went to the movies?
I went, oh my God.
What'd you see?
I can only imagine the movie, if anyone, oh my God, a tearjerker for sure, but
never
I
mind.
highly recommend it. I brought my son who's 14, and if anyone has teenagers, they know you need all the help you can get to raise them.
Takes a
And
village.
It takes a village, or maybe a whole planet, but I definitely felt that movie was extremely inspiring for both of us. So if the listeners haven't figured it out already, Cliff, I do run off on tangents.
But she's back, and she'll take your call if you got any
Yes.
nutritional
Oh, by the
questions.
way, it is a live call-in show.
Yeah, but it's so much fun to listen to you again. But now, once the phones start ringing,
don't we usually take a break about this time? I
We
can't
could
believe
do that.
I can't believe it's already 10:30. Holy
but
moly!
like everybody else, we're so starstruck.
Yeah, and I only
that you're
have
back.
8 more things to go over.
Hey, only 8 more topics. So
boy.
if you're in the the nutrition dilemma, there's something wrong, something you ate, or maybe something you didn't eat, you need to call 340-1590 and
Yes.
talk to Joanne
Any
right now.
questions? All good.
They are. And this program is brought to you by Nutrition World in the Arcade Building across from City Hall, US 1 between Avenue A and Orange Avenue in Fort Pierce. We'll be right back.
Guiding the Treasure Coast in health, one person at a time. That's their motto at Joanne's Nutrition World, Suite 121, in the historic Arcade Building on US 1, downtown Fort Pierce. Joanne brings more than 25 years of experience in the natural health industry, right here to you. Take advantage of this free personal guide to wellness and good health. Meet with Joanne herself and get started. Nutrition World always provides you with the hottest new product lines, natural and homeopathic remedies, herbals, and best of all, expert advice from the people who care. Call Joanne at 464-3598, 464-3598, and learn the correlation between diet and great health. Stop in today. The expert guidance to health is always free at Nutrition World. Nutrition World, Suite 121 in the Arcade Building, US 1, downtown Fort Pierce. WPSL presents CBS Storm Track Weather with meteorologist Chris Farrell, brought to you this hour by Seacoast Air Conditioning, home of the $76 AC tune-up and safety inspection.
I'm meteorologist Chris Farrell for CBS 12 News. Treasure Coast, a weak cool front passing through this Thursday morning, bringing partly to mostly cloudy skies for our Thursday today. A breezy northeast wind, 15 to 20 miles an hour. The high today only near 80. Rain chance 30% for isolated showers. Tonight's low 68. Friday, partly cloudy to sunny skies, a high of 80 and an isolated shower. Saturday, mostly sunny to partly cloudy, a high of 85. Sunday, mostly cloudy, a 50% chance of rain on Sunday. At the beaches, increasing winds and seas, a rip currents becoming likely. Stay near the lifeguard when you head in the water. I'm CBS 12 meteorologist Chris Farrell for WPSL Digital 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Thank you, Chris. And weather this hour is brought to you by Seacoast Air Conditioning, your hometown air conditioning company since 1982. For repairs or a whole new system, call 772-466-2400.
Comfort crisis? Don't roast. Call Seacoast.
(10:34) at WPSL. Now back to Joanne's World of Nutrition, brought to you by Nutrition World in the Arcade Building on US 1 between Orange Avenue and Avenue A in Fort Pierce. Once again, here she is. She's back. Joanne Augusto.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening this morning. I hope everyone's having a great morning so far. Well, so yeah, we kind of just started talking about everything and anything, and as usual, I just got a question that I'd like to answer, a little commercial break question about sugar.
That's when somebody walks into the studio during a commercial break and asks a question. And after we tell them, I'm sorry, this is a call-in show.
That's right. Yes. So, well, because it was going to take more than 30 seconds to answer this, because do you know this is one of, in 33 years that I have been doing this, one of the most common questions that I get. So it is it okay to use brown sugar instead of white sugar? Because I know how bad white sugar
Processed
is for
white
me.
sugar, yeah.
So unfortunately, the answer is no, it's no better. So brown sugar, I don't care what color tan, you know, the sugar is. It could be the whitest, worst bleach sugar
Or
the
clear,
darkest,
syrupy.
brownest, syrupy with the fancy label of organic on it. And it's just kind of like, is Oreo or gluten-free organic Oreo cookies as good as, you know, I mean, or better than the other part? No, it's all bad.
Folks,
it's all bad.
You're listening to Joanne Augusto, the lady who taught us to read those nutrition labels on diet food and look at how much sugar they pile inside of the diet food. Remember?
Yes. That never to look at the front of any label ever. People get paid exorbitant amounts of money to deceive us, so
Trick
always flip it over.
Yep.
But I am determined not to get sidetracked for the last 30 minutes of the show, but I still welcome any callers with any questions. But I do want to note that even though all sugar has to be watched very carefully, that any sugar that's chemicalized is worse than sugar in general. So again, it's the amount of toxic burden or burden that you put on your body in general that counts. So if you're going to have sugar, make it real sugar and limit it. And also what other ingredients you're adding to it, make them better quality. So I look at it like if I'm going to have my chocolate, I'll use real organic dark chocolate and put, just a little bit of real sugar and not flour. So it will be like fudge versus a chocolate chip cookie or a brownie. So, just make better choices. Now, there are people that love stevia, a better, like a non-processed form of stevia to get their sweetness. I have days that I love it, and then I have days that I just rather a touch of real sugar in my life. So just choose wisely. We will have many, many shows about the topic of sugar, and we will cover every detail and great ideas and recipes. So you can definitely look forward to many awesome guests coming on. I already have 4 booked, and I am telling you 3 of them are actually famous.
You will be able to follow this show
yes.
on YouTube because we're going to save the other crowd.
Is Greg over? All right, the owner of the station's already cracking me up. He wants to know if there's such a thing as sugar-free beer.
Okay, I want to know too.
Well, all carbohydrates turn into sugar, and beer is a carbohydrate.
And
so
alcohol is also related.
We did an entire show on this topic because not only will alcohol shut down your liver from functioning at a few moments, but then you're putting sugar on top of it, so it's a double whammo. But again, I do drink. I'll teach you ways. So if you do want to consume alcohol,
drink responsibly. I know what you're doing.
Yes, drink responsibly. Use an Uber and use my nutrition tips.
There you go.
So, but I wanted to stress that, so in my journey of, teaching nutrition, I was an educator for a while. I worked for manufacturers, some of the biggest manufacturers. I ran some of the biggest, most incredible health food stores that we have here in Florida. I've traveled the whole country going to workshops and seminars. I've been so blessed with having amazing education being offered to me that throughout the years, my journey has brought me to different levels of health. I mean, I've definitely gone off the wagon here and there, had some, fertility issues that made me change things around. And all my listeners, they heard
you had too many kids, right?
Yeah, I wish, only 2, but yeah, the getting that second one, and all my listeners kind of like went on that journey with me as you did, and it was quite an exciting and sometimes drama-filled journey. But the point I'm getting at, it doesn't matter what part of your journey you're on. If you've never heard of anything to do with health and you just happened to catch this because you were hoping for like a legal story coming on air, just know that I try to inspire you to make small little changes. And sometimes people will leave my store with no bottles because I want them to first change some of their lifestyle habits. Because I don't believe in overwhelming someone. I believe in being patient with your body and going one step at a time.
And it's easy to overwhelm someone sometimes.
Yes.
There's so much that we feel they need to know. We try to tell them everything all at once. And it's not that easy. You got to do it gently.
And sometimes people will leave frustrated because they'll like, no, Joanne, I want to know it all now. And I'm like, you know what? You could have got that from Google.
Yep.
You could have literally typed in, what 20 things can I do every day to be healthier, and got a list.
Oh, wow.
But I believe in getting inspired and learning the reason why to start with just one. And when you get that one thing down pat, then we're going to do the next thing. It's like an amazing home. They don't pick out the curtains first. They're not at the store getting their gorgeous silk curtains first. No, first they're buying the plot of land and they're researching it. What's the best location? Then, the wood framing, and then the cement. And each step takes a lot of research, a lot of thought. And then at the end, then you put the icing on the cake, the final touches, the bouquet of flowers, the curtains. And that's what I try to do with each and every customer I'm working with. And I hope the listeners can get a grasp too, that just start from the ground and work your way up. And a year from now, if you keep listening to every show and just take away one thing each and every show, at the end of the year will make a difference. I have people still doing the oil pulling from when I did that show 5 years ago. 5 years.
Yes.
Remember, before Dr. Oz, before all these people even mention it.
And after you did, I noticed that even the grocery stores were starting to sell these great big
right.
containers.
And sesame oil. The managers still joke with me. I've never sold so much sesame oil because you could use either.
You should be getting a kickback from the grocery
people,
stores around
people
here.
still tell me they still do it every morning. And let me tell you, I've sometimes gone months forgetting to do it. But so the takeaway is each and every Thursday morning, I'm going to give you what I would like to call the tip of the day or the tip of the week. And if you can just try to do these things, some of them, I'm a little corny sometimes. I'm a little weird with the things I might suggest. They might seem way too simple to ever make a real impact on your health, but you just got to trust me on this.
Well, actually, the best things for us are really simple things.
Very simple, and most of them are free.
Yeah,
most of the things I'm going to suggest are free, really. They actually don't come from any store. But I'm going to test you here, Cliff, okay? So what did I start every single show with?
Well, we did the breathing exercises,
Thank
which
you.
borderlines meditation and meditative states.
Exactly. So I definitely want to remind everyone about that, and
I still
also
have
the
people
new
calling
listeners.
me wanting me to do guided meditation.
Yes, you did so well. So I thought we can remind everyone about that because that is something I still do to this day. I still mention it with every customer because that simple exercise, which is free and available to all humans, no matter who you are, you
as
can
long as
breathe.
you can breathe. Yes.
You have to be able to breathe.
Yep.
So, there's a catch. You have to be alive to do this exercise.
And it's really quite refreshing
It is.
staying alive.
So what
doing
we'll
it.
do right now, we'll go over it, and then the listeners, if they can just really make sure that their station is on right at the beginning, we'll do this to the start of
If
every
you're
Thursday morning
driving,
show.
Don't close your eyes
Yes, please.
while doing this.
We take away all liability for any car accidents. Yes.
That's right. We're not responsible for anything that happens that you do with your eyes closed,
Yes.
because keep them open.
And because you mentioned the eyes, I have tweaked the breathing exercise a little bit. Unfortunately, a lot of people right now are feeling a little down and depressed. And so what I do is I actually tell them to look in a mirror while they're doing this exercise. And I want them to smile. No matter their mind state at the time, I want them to smile looking in the mirror as they do this breathing exercise.
give your intentions the opportunity to just kind of relax and let all the drama
It's
fall
literally
off.
like 2 minutes, not even. So if just to remind everyone or to let the newbies know, so this breathing exercise actually has a clinical study to go with it. I still think that's so funny. They spent money to show that breathing is good for us.
Hey, wow, it took a really brilliant scientist to determine that.
Exactly. So with the breathing exercise, you're going to touch your fingertips 5 times, and while you're doing that, you're going to breathe in through your nose very slowly for 5. You're going to hold it for 5 seconds, again, tapping each fingertip as you hold for 5
You
seconds.
can count out your seconds on
Yes,
your
which
fingertips.
Cliff always does a great job for us. So if we just want to just breathe and relax and not worry about counting, but just touch the fingertips as the count, and then breathe out through your nose for 5. So everything is through the nose, nice and slowly, nice and steady. And again, if you're feeling a little low or a little gloomy or doomy or depressed, go in front of a mirror, big, huge smile on your face, okay, and do the exercise while looking at your smile.
Because this is good for you, and if you look in the mirror and tell yourself this is going to be very good for you.
Yes, and I haven't done mine yet this morning.
Oh.
So I took a nice walk and while I drank my alkalizing coffee, and so I definitely need to do it now.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah,
so
now.
are we ready?
5, 5, and
Okay,
5,
and
right?
do a quick exhale out any negative, any frustration first, just a quick exhale out.
Okay.
Okay.
Let it all out, and now you
Okay.
begin your.
Here we go.
Now take it in for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. 4, 3, 2, 1. That was actually 5. I jumped to the 4 because I skipped a second in time.
Oh, I
But-
see. Well, it
but
felt
it worked.
perfectly in order.
Yeah.
So, and we normally in the mornings we will do that a couple times, okay? But at home, I would love if you continued on for 5 times. So that way, the number 5 will be really on your memory here. So breathe in for 5, hold for 5, exhale for 5, and repeat for 5 times. You will regulate your blood pressure. You will be more focused. You will have more energy. Even if you have tight muscles or joints that are achy, literally infusing them with more oxygen throughout your body. So there is extreme health benefits to doing this repetitively. Most human beings walk around with very shallow breathing.
Yeah.
So this is an extreme benefit to all. You can do it sitting, standing, like I said, eyes closed in front of a mirror. You can smile. But I really, this is the first tip for the show. And so I hope that this one you take the most seriously because it's amazing and anyone can do it.
Wow, you can do it for 2 minutes or you could do it for 2 hours.
Or you could do it your whole entire day.
Yeah, 2 days.
Like, oh my gosh. Well, we have a caller. Awesome. So we have Dell on line 1. Good morning, Dell.
Hello, Dell.
Good morning.
Yes, morning.
Hi there, Dell.
I had heard you probably 3 or 4 years ago. I just wanted to tell a short story that really helped me out. About 4 years ago, I had been to the doctor for about 15 years. I had sort of a pain in my mouth that would just rotate around for probably about a year. And I had heard you about swishing, I think, with coconut oil. And I had even gone to the dentist finally, because I hadn't been there for a while. And he said, wow, et cetera, you got infection. So they put me on some different, antibiotics, things, mouthwashes, and that. It didn't really do anything. It continued to do that.
We can hear you better if you speak right into the phone real good for us there because it's a little...
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, and then so I heard you about the swishing. I went ahead and actually it was about 2:00 in the afternoon. I remembered it. Went to a store, bought a quart of it, grabbed a spoon out of the deli, and started swishing with. Now, also what had happened was they were going to pull a couple teeth that were bad. And from the time that I had gone, and I was supposed to go back in 2 weeks, one of the teeth actually started turning sideways. I guess it had an infection underneath it. And
Okay.
pushed the
Gotcha.
root, actually pushing sideways, and it was pretty painful. So I started the swishing, got home that night, told my wife about it, went ahead and swished again at night before I went to bed. Woke up the next morning, and the tooth was, and this tooth had been out for, in that direction for 3-4 days. It actually was about half the way back in place again.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
I went ahead and swished again in the morning and brought some with me, swished at noon. By the end of the day, the tooth was completely back in place.
Oh,
And-
Dell, how awesome.
Oh, it's. I mean, I tell everybody now about it. But I went back to the dentist, and in the meantime, I actually had a heart attack a couple months earlier than that. So they had me on blood thinners. And so the dentist says, well, we want to pull those teeth, but, we need to talk to your doctor. So they talked. He said, yeah, you can go ahead and do it. We don't want infection in the mouth. I went back to the dentist. He checked my mouth out, and he said, does your mouth hurt anymore? I said, no, not really. I told him what I'd been doing for the last 2 weeks. He said, well, seeing it's not hurting, I'd rather not pull the teeth, in that 6-month period after you're on blood thinners. stuff and just wait and we'll do that. And I did, and I still continue to do it. And my plaque used to build up probably every 2 or 3 months. Now it's normal. And you go back for cleaning every 6 months. It's not too bad. So
That is such a great story. Oh, my God.
unbelievable. So
Well-
I tell everybody.
Well, Del, can I give you a little trick that I've added since I took a little vacation from the show? So
Yeah.
after I do my oil pulling, I think on the show I mentioned doing like a salt rinse. I actually do like 1 drop of my super strength North American oregano oil. And that way, if the oil pulling has pulled up into your mouth anything from inside your body, like bacterial or viral wise, it helps kill it. And it also really, really gets inside those gums and kills anything that might be fostering. So it's just 1 drop of oil oregano. And I haven't got sick, like no colds, no flus. And I believe it's because of that extra add-on.
Huh. Okay, well, great. One more quick thing that
Sure.
was interesting. My son had a wart that he had ever since a kid. I mean, we took it, had it burned off, froze off. It would come back. He, whatever, cut it off, all kinds of things. That went on for about 10 years. Just for the heck of it, we know they're viruses. Just, why don't you just put a couple drops of coconut oil on it, put a Band-Aid on it. He did that. 2 weeks later, it was gone, and it's never come back.
Wow. Okay. Well, I want you to know, Del, definitely keep listening because I am going to have, I think it's about 3 weeks from now, a coconut oil show. And and I definitely want you to maybe repeat a couple of these stories because it's going to talk about coconut oil and its miracleness and amazingness, but it always helps when someone calls in with their personal testimonials. So thank you so much, and I'm sure you've inspired many people.
Thanks. Great show.
Thank you, Del. Have an awesome day. All right, and we have Paul on line 2. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
How are you?
I thought I was going to be your first caller, but they'll beat me to it.
That's okay. It's all good. How are you today?
Very good. Very good. Just wanted to give you a big welcome back. We missed you.
Oh, thank
your
you
words
so
of
much.
wisdom and your inspirations. Started doing the chant and the breathing in the morning with the show. And, if you don't have the leader there to drag you along, you forget to do it, but I'm still walking in different things, so you're trying to stay healthy, but I may have some questions that I'll have to call the shop and the store and see if we can set up a meeting if they give the number out after, or
Yeah, we're going to do it a commercial, and I'll mention the phone number too. And
but
thank
it was
you.
surprising
Thank
to
you.
hear you this morning. I've had the radio on, and she said, "Oh my God, this has
I
been a
remember
long
that
time."
voice. Yes, that little Long Island girl that sounds still like she's 10 on the radio. Yeah. Oh, Paul, thank you so much. And yeah, you know how it works. Call me anytime. And I do want to mention now, Paul, that I hired an employee named Jennifer only because she had the same birth date as my mother, because it was right after my mom passed. And she is learning and growing. And, of course, it's hard to catch up to 33 years experience. Yeah. But still, she has a passion for it, and she loves it. So you can always ask her a question, and she knows how to get the answers from me if I can't be reached.
And I just started working on that, trying to get off the sugar kick.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to have lots of shows about that. Yeah, I know it is. It is. But I tell people now, just stay off the flour, and I don't tell them to get off the sugar. That way, they're really getting rid of so much of the sugar without their awareness that they're being too strict. It's easier.
Are awful.
I know, right? But I always say, other than vegetables, pretty much stay away from everything else. Thanks for calling in, Paul, and I look forward to hearing from you again.
Okay, I'll come up with some questions for you.
Sounds good. Have an awesome day.
We're going to run that commercial at the very end of the show, so stay tuned. And you get that phone number.
All right. And so I definitely want to, I'm going to have a whole show on this because it was going to take 20 minutes to talk about this.
Well,
I have an infrared sauna now.
An infrared sauna?
Yes.
In your store?
During my vacation, I bought a dream purchase that I've been waiting 10 years to acquire, an infrared sauna. It's 2-person, absolutely beautiful. You do it in the privacy of one of the rooms at the store. It's amazing, Cliff.
Wow.
I want to live in there, like literally
Like an
live in
altered
there.
state.
Yeah. So there's too many wonderful benefits to like give it 1 minute at the end of the show. So I will just say that please, I will have a show on it. I have a few guests coming up, so I'll try to sneak it in, within the next 6 shows. But infrared sauna. Google it. Absolutely incredible. I have it, and I only charge $25 a session or a 10-pack for $200. That's an amazing price. Most like cities like Fort Lauderdale or Delray or Miami get $55 a session. But again, my true intention is letting people experience health without breaking their budget. Because, I know my regimen. Whew, thank God I own the place. It's really gets pricey when you're really consumed, but I call it my health insurance policy. So definitely come by and take a look at the infrared sauna. And the Ion Foot Detox is still available, still as popular as ever. We are open 9:30 to 5, so we changed that a little bit, just a half hour later in the morning for me to have time to get my little nature walk in and time for the kids. And we also have Chris Allison. I will tell you, Chris Allison covers the whole Treasure Coast, so a lot of my listeners are probably aware of him already, but he is amazing. He comes every month to the store, and it's the last Tuesday of every month. So he does blood analysis with just a little finger prick. So you don't eat for 2 hours before the appointment. It's only $50 to me to get him to talk to you for 30 minutes uninterrupted for $50 is worth much more than that. It's very fair, but he can go over every single thing that your cells are doing right in front of you on a computer screen. So that's the last Tuesday of every month. Wow, that show went so fast.
Wow, the fastest
Holy
show on radio.
moly. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I can't wait to come back next week. I don't even want to announce who it is, but no one wants to miss next week's show. Big name, huge name, super famous.
I'm not even going to speculate because I know
oh my
the
God.
big one.
I can't believe he's coming on my show. Holy moly.
I bet I know who it is already.
Oh my God.
Off the air, I'll take my wild guess, but you've been listening to Joanne's World
Thank
of
you.
Nutrition from Nutrition World in Fort Pierce. What the heck? What's that phone number, Joanne?
772-464-3598.
Alrighty. Thank you for listening. Stick around. We have Dr. Stuart Shipes' Holistic Health Hour coming up next Thursday morning on WPSL, Port St. Lucie.